So we've had a little bit of time to digest everything that's going on with the XFL and USFL merger rumors. We're going to continue to say they're rumors, although I think it's going to happen. I don't see any way that it can't happen at this point. Apparently they've been talking since July. Uh, I think one of the big reasons why the league hasn't spoken out about this situation is because they released the news of working with the CFL in the past, and then that fell through. And I don't think they want to get people's hopes up just for it to basically die out and go away like the CFL and XFL merger rumors did in the past. That being said, I think the biggest reason why it was just recently released is because it's basically for sure going to happen. As I said, there's really no other way it can't happen at this point. Apparently, the details are being released, reported by Mike Mitchell, that apparently they're dropping down to 10 teams once the league is merged. There's a rumor going around that they could potentially drop down to 10 teams. So opposed to merging and having a 16-team league, or even dropping as low as 14 or 12 teams, they're going all the way down to 10 teams. Apparently, it's going to be 6 from the XFL and 4 from the USFL that will be coming over. It'll be 10 teams that currently have homes right now. And the biggest thing with that is from the XFL side, the Houston Roughnecks would no longer be in the league. This is a team back in 2020 was undefeated. Now, granted, it's basically a whole new team now, new coaching staff and everything else. But this is a team that took over the XFL world back in 2020 with how well they played. PJ Walker became the face of the league at that point. And then whenever they returned this time around, they won their first 3 games of the season. Granted, the team did not finish as good as what everyone expected them to, but they still made the playoffs. They were still the number 1 team out of the South Division. But they have Wade Phillips as their head coach. That Smith offensive coordinator is one of the biggest offensive coordinators in spring football today. And now, they might not even be a thing. Apparently being placed on hold for the Houston Roughnecks. Or not Roughnecks, the Houston Gamblers. Now, where I have an argument against that is everyone wants to talk about, well, they have history. They have history. Well, there's a couple things to take into thought here. Number 1, yeah, the Houston Gamblers have history. Back in the 80s. For 3 years. 3 seasons. Can people even name players that played on that team back in the 80s for 3 seasons? How many players from that Houston Gamblers team actually played for the Houston Gamblers for a full 3 seasons? This isn't like back in, what year was it, 2000, 2001, 2002? I can't remember what exact year it was. But this isn't like whenever Houston was announced as a expansion team in the NFL, and they opted to bring back the Houston Oilers team name, where they had the history of Warren Moon and so much going on for them before they moved over to Nashville, before they moved to Tennessee. This is a whole new fresh start, whole new league. The Houston Roughnecks actually have, right now, a presence in Houston. They have merchandise that sells in Houston. They have people that go to games to support the team that's in Houston. The Gamblers do not. They do not. They have nothing going on for them in Houston other than their name is Houston. Which is why, if it was me organizing it, I would relocate. And I think there's a lot of fans out there that would agree as well. Relocate the Houston Gamblers team to another city. Move them to Austin, Texas. Have 4 teams in Texas. It's a huge football state. Huge. That actually might be great. Because you could have cities like Arlington and Houston battle it out as rivals. You can have San Antonio and Austin battle out as rivals. You can have Austin, Dallas battle, or Arlington battle. Like, there's so much you can do with that. That would bring in that entire state of Texas alone. That would be huge if they had 4 teams, 4 of the 16 teams in Texas. That would be huge in regards to the promotion of the league. That whole market down there would be booming for spring football. Like, it would be huge. It would be talked about so much. It would be, like, I think that's the route they should have went. If it's going the direction that they're rumored to go right now, I think they're making the wrong decision. Could be wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But I think that would be a major disappointment if they got rid of the Houston Roughnecks and kept the Houston Gamblers just because of namesake, just because they was around for 3 years back in the 80s. Honestly, can you even, like, before the XFL 2020 actually came out, I never knew anything about the USFL back in the 80s at all. I knew nothing. I got on YouTube and watched a random video about it. And I thought to myself, like, oh my gosh, this thing was a big deal. They had Herschel Walker, Steve Young, Jim Kelly. They had everything going on for them. I thought it was pretty cool. What happened, and that was it. My family didn't ever talk about the USFL. I grew up in a huge sports family. They never talked about the USFL. Whenever Steve Young was mentioned, or whenever we'd watch a football game and Steve Young was an analyst on it, he wasn't ever brought up as this was the LA Express quarterback. No. It wasn't even brought up that, did you know that he actually played football for another league before the NFL? Nothing. Steve Young was only mentioned as the San Francisco 49ers quarterback. People around town I grew up in a small town, huge sports town. They never mentioned anything about the USFL. It was always NFL only. Adults I've been around never mentioned the USFL before. Yeah, it might have been a big deal back in the 80s. But the return back 30, 40 years later, come on. It's not as big of a deal as a return as what the XFL actually was when Vince McMahon himself brought back his own league. There was nobody in the USFL from the return to USFL. Nobody was talking about the return of the USFL. They did a good job. They brought back Doug Flutie to be the one to make the announcement. But no ownership, no coaches, nobody else was out actually promoting the USFL. Like I said, I'm not trying to bash the USFL. I think it's awesome that they're back, and I think it's awesome that they're merging with the XFL. Basically, what I'm getting at is to round it back to the Houston Gamblers, Houston Roughnecks thing. To choose the Houston Gamblers over the Houston Roughnecks to be the team to represent Houston and the potential merged league is a mistake. Is a huge mistake. And you could probably ask fans of Houston about that as well, and they could probably agree that it would be a huge mistake. Now, to round it back to how this all played out, people can talk crap about the XFL lost $60 million and they're broke, and that's why they wanted to go to the USFL and try to merge the league. No. Mike Mitchell reported it. You guys can watch an episode of the Markcast that was just reported last night, or you guys can watch an episode of XFL Week in Review from XFL News Hub on YouTube. Mike Mitchell described it exactly how it all played out. I won't go into deep detail about it, but he has mentioned that it was employees of each league got together. They was talking, what if we did this, ran it up to the corporate management of each league, and that's how it escalated. Because it's smart. You cannot compete head-to-head with each other because you're just doing nothing but defeating each other. You're going to put your own business out of business if these two leagues still try to compete with each other. The best way to get around that is to get together and merge. Now, if they do merge, how they need to go forward with the promotion of the league, and this is coming from a guy from St. Louis, supports the Battlehawks like crazy. Loves the XFL, loves the rules, loves everything about it. They need to promote the league like the USFL promotes their league. They promote their league as if it is professional football. And they do a damn good job at it too. Unfortunately, it didn't play out how they expected it with the viewership and everything else, but I think they defeated themselves with the hub model. But at the same time, saved them a bunch of money, and it's allowing them to go into a Season 3 if they choose to go into a Season 3 alone. The XFL's promotion is absolutely terrible. It's garbage. And they cannot promote their league going forward the way they're promoting it right now. You cannot promote it with the whole Player 54 mentality in minor league football. Here's why. Everyone always talking about how they need to create the XFL, or they need to create a minor league system for the NFL because the NFL needs it. No, the NFL don't need shit. They got plenty of money. They have access to get any player they want right now. They don't need developmental. They don't. The only players that need development, maybe a couple players on the defensive side, but the offensive line players always need development. Defensive line players always need development. Quarterbacks. Receivers don't really develop. Running backs don't develop at all. What they need to do is promote it as if it's going to be an alternative to the NFL. Give players other options. Can you compete head-to-head with the NFL? No. You don't need to. It's crazy if you do that. But, if you opt to just be an alternative and play in the spring in nicer weather in cities that don't have NFL teams, like San Antonio, like St. Louis, then at that point, you could possibly pry away some players that would prefer to play football closer to their home, that would prefer to play football in nicer weather. I'm not a football player, I'm a baseball player, but if you give me an option of playing ball in March 60-degree weather, opposed to playing some ball in the midst of December in Green Bay in 10-degree, 5-degree weather, I could promise you I'd rather play ball in that weather. I promise you I would rather go to a game in that weather and have some fun on a weekend with my family, opposed to playing or watching a ball game in cold-ass weather in the wintertime. So that being said, the NFL has billionaires as owners. The NFL has billions of dollars in revenue on a yearly basis. But if the new merged league franchises its teams to millionaires that can't afford to buy an NFL team or doesn't have the opportunity to buy an NFL team, a lot of people still talking about it. The other day, The Rock was on the Pat McAfee show, and they were talking about a variety of things. They talked about The Rock's WWE career, but one of the things that they did not want to talk about, they barely even talked about, was the XFL. It's like what Mike Mitchell said. Mainstream media really does not want to get into talking about the XFL. And I think it's mainly because of the promotion of the league. They don't want to promote it as if it's big time stuff, okay? They asked The Rock about the XFL towards the end of his interview with Pat McAfee. His response was the same shit that he's been talking about for the past few years. Player 54 mentality. I was never good enough to play in the NFL, and the XFL wasn't around at that time. We want to get players a way to show off their stuff and develop and get into the NFL. Listen, you can't promote your league as if it's going to be a minor league product. You can't. I understand you're not going to be able to compete with the NFL. I get that. And you need to get the best available players out there right now. And of course, the best available players out there right now are going to want to just play in the NFL. But if your long-term vision, and a lot of people saying that, oh, the NFL needs a minor league, and this is what the XFL needs to do, or this is what this new merged league needs to do. You can't do that. If Danny Garcia is on record with saying that she wants to develop the XFL as if it's going to be a year-round thing, they want to have it talked about year-round. Let me tell you something. I'm a huge baseball fan. Me and all my baseball, buddies growing up, all that stuff, it wasn't ever talked about. Minor league baseball wasn't ever talked about year-round. Ever. Why? Because nobody gives a shit about minor league sports. A lot of people talk about the G League. Oh, you need a G League, blah, blah, blah. Name me 3 active players that's playing the NBA G League right now. Do it. You can't. Because nobody gives a shit about minor league sports. If you promote your league as if it's going to be minor league and how your goal is to just get it, get players to the NFL and stuff, let me tell you something. You're going to be lucky to fill 10,000 seats in a game. You're going to be lucky to get 500, 600, 700,000 viewers going forward in a game on TV. You're going to be lucky. NFL has millions of people watching games. Millions of people talking about the games. Minor League Baseball doesn't, NBA G League doesn't. It's not year-round because nobody gives a shit about it. I get it, they're developmental. I get it, NFL needs a developmental system. But the NFL has plenty of money to develop their own developmental system. They could do it themselves. If you want to be an alternative league, if you want to be a league that's going to be talked about year-round, you need to have a bigger plan other than it being September of 2023 and you're interviewing on the Pat McAfee show. And the only thing that you have to talk about your own league is the Player 54 shit still. This is why they need to go with the USFL's promotional plan. They know how to promote their league as if they want to get it going. I can't think of any time off the top of my head that Moose Johnson or anyone else is on record with saying, we want to get players to the NFL. That's our long-term goal. Get it? You want to help players right now, and you want to get the best available players possible, and this is their best way of getting to the NFL. But here's the thing. It's 2023. You're about to enter your second season. You purchased the league back in 2020. What's your plan going forward, other than just still talking about, I never had that opportunity to develop and become an NFL player, so I'm creating these opportunities for players? What's your plan in year 5, year 6, year 7, if it gets to that point? The NFL has plenty of money to develop their own minor league system if they want it. They don't want it because they know they have access to get anyone and everyone they can already without having to dish out the money to do it. So therefore, another Doug Flutie interviewing Kellen Cowherd. They was talking about getting players promoted and stuff like that. This is when USFL announced they was coming back. Doug Flutie's on record with saying on the Kellen Cowherd show that their goal is to try to get the best available players possible, but they don't understand how by year 5, year 6 of existence, they're not competing for college players. Because that's their goal. They have a goal into growing into the biggest league that they could possibly have. BT talked about year-round. That's fantastic. The XFL doesn't. They're not talking about that. They're shooting themselves in the foot by doing this Player 54 and trying to get players to the NFL bullshit still. Get to the point to where you could compete for some college talent. You're not going to spend $40, $50 million a year on a quarterback like the NFL is doing right now. You can't compete with the NFL. But you can buy young college talent that's not eligible for the NFL draft right now. The NFL's not going to be crazy enough to move their league down to being 1 year removed from high school to enter the NFL. They're not going to do anything crazy like that unless they create their own minor league system, in which everyone knows they're not going to. They're not. So therefore, people talking about how they need to just merge this league and grow the league and give each team, the NFL needs to just get this is their feeder system. No. If that's the case, nobody's going to watch. Nobody's going to care. And it's going to be the same boat that it's in right now. And it's going to fail. Because it costs too much money to run a football league just to have 500, 600, 700,000 viewers watching the games. And only 10,000 fans going to these big stadiums. They're not going to survive. They need to have a better long-term plan. And they need to try their best to get bigger name players to grow their league the best they can. And you're not going to do that being a feeder league. You're not. So, now we knocked out the whole number of teams that's going to join the league if it merges. Now we've talked about the whole Houston debacle. Now we talked about the promotions of the league and stuff. Let's talk about who's going to run and operate the league and stuff like that. Honestly, The Rock just needs to be a face of the league to promote. Just give him a script. The guy doesn't need to promote the league. I understand he's rich, he's famous, biggest star in the world, and this and that. Give the guy a script, let him do commercials, let him be the guy to promote your league, because that'll get people interested. But don't do this Player 54 bullshit. Don't. It's not going to work. It's not going to grow your league. It's not. If it would have grown bigger than what it is right now. So let him be a face of the league. Let Danny Garcia, because she is a good businesswoman, let her be the chairwoman of the league still. Let Moose be the commissioner. But as in everyone else's positions, I don't know, because I don't know too much about who's all in corporate positions. I know Russ Brandon's a president and stuff like that, but exactly what he's hands-on with and stuff is beyond me. I honestly don't know. You'll have to tune into other shows to actually check that out. But therefore, final thoughts on this whole potential merger? It needs to happen. That's just it. It has to happen at this point. I think it needs to run from... I'd start it in early March, and the reason why I wouldn't start it directly after the Super Bowl is because it gives you a little time to actually promote your league leading into the season, opposed to just jumping right into it from the Super Bowl. I think people's not going to have that football hangover. They're talking about starting in April. The reason why I hate April is because I think April, May, June, playing football in the summertime heat, that's going to suck. That's going to be terrible. For the players, I wouldn't want that. So that's why I'd start in March, early March, in the season around May time frame, and grow from there. But all in all, hopefully they merge. Hopefully it's more than just 10 teams. Hopefully they have a bigger game plan other than the whole Player 54 developmental lead players into it. There's plenty of people out there that have plenty of money that would want to buy a pro football team. This is a cheap way of franchising the teams too in the future, to where they could purchase young minor league or college talent. If there's a running back that after year 5 of their contract that doesn't get the money that they want, hey, pay them for a couple years of their prime to come to your league. That would be great for your league, in my opinion. But I'd be happy to hear your thoughts. Just comment. Let me know what you think. If you guys would like more thoughts, feel free to reach out. Other than that, stay tuned for the next one.